All right. So, folks, my name is Alex. I am a product manager at Google, and I used to do product management in mobile gaming and apps and businesses and startups and consulting before that. And I have a channel where I talk about product management and business, and I hang out with these guys a lot, helping out folks that just want to get into an interesting career, want to figure out how to do it, want to figure out what they want to do, and ultimately want to live happy, fulfilling lives. And anything I can do to help on the journey, I definitely would love to do so.
Yeah,
so good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, let's kick it off, guys. Let's kick it off. I think it's really important here that we have two different individuals who have been. You have Tim, who has been in big tech, and now he's running his own tech startup as a PM, right? So that perspective is very unique and really important here. And then you have Alex, who's also in the PM world. He's at Google, right? And you have myself, who's at Amazon. So I think we can offer you the perspective both from the corporate and the startup arena. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and I'm gonna direct this to you, Alex, is from a recruiting angle, right? Like from a hiring manager perspective, what are you looking for on a resume? If you could summarize that.
Yeah, so that's going to be different. It's an awesome question. And probably a lot of folks that are watching right now are early career, but I'm sure there's some folks that are also thinking about pivoting or getting into it a little bit later. But a lot of the folks that I've been working with lately are either in college or fresh out of college and are thinking about it from that perspective. So those resumes, of course, are going to be completely different from somebody that already has experience in the industry. So let's start at it from the point of view of someone that is just coming in college or just very, very early on. So as a product manager, again, that's going to be different for whether you're applying for startups, whether you're applying for bigger tech companies. From a bigger tech company perspective, we want to see that a person exhibits basically product management characteristics. And a lot of that stuff is in soft skills as you're starting out your career. As you're in college or you're just out of college, basically your leadership skills, your communication skills, collaboration, your ability to execute, your ability to prioritize, that is what actually has to come through on the resume, so that we're interested enough to actually call you out to have a conversation. Because people think that the resume gets them the job. The resume just gets them, of course, the callback. And so you want to have soft skills in there. You want to have the things that a product manager does, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. That's what you want to highlight in your resume. Oh, by the way, any startup experience, building anything, organizing communities, like stuff like that, I think that's all very important.
Yeah. So there's an interesting, I had a really interesting conversation with Parth. I think his name is Parth Detroja. He's at Facebook. He's a PM over there. And he said that in one of his interviews, I think it was maybe at the Facebook interview, he bombed every single question, actually. But he got the job. And the reason why he got the job was because he talked about a startup that he was working on, and he wanted to get feedback on it. So the question that he asked the interviewers was, "Hey, I'm working on this really interesting startup. I'd love to get your feedback because you guys are in the game. You guys are at Facebook, and I'm trying to make actionable steps towards making this thing a reality." And so it wound up being an hour and a half long conversation about what he was trying to do with his startup. Even if on your resume, it's just like a student project that you did that showcases some product-y thing, a use case, for example, why does the Google Maps function, when I get to a destination, reverse the direction and make me have to turn my phone? Like it's a crap feature. Right? Just going to Google. It's like, it's a crap feature. Every time I'm like, why the hell do I have to do this? It says I'm here, but I want to be able to zoom in and like show where I'm at so I could actually see it because there's a lot of buildings around me. So it's just an awkward feature, right? Doing a case study on that, posting it on LinkedIn is incredibly valuable. Right? Because it gets the conversation away from just these like resume bullet points, and it makes you unique. It makes you interesting. So those type of things are really important. Now, Tim, when it comes to you, right? Like you have Guide, right? Guide is one of the hottest startup companies in the world. you're trying to hire individuals. What are you trying to look for with your startup hat on that maybe differ from the corporate world, or are they the same?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting you say that, John. I had this young guy who was a part of our beta. Well, we were making him a part of our beta. And, he's actually he's interested in product management. He has a series that he hosts around product management on LinkedIn and YouTube. And, he was firsthand seeing us kind of build a product from the ground up, part of our beta. A few weeks ago, I got an email from him letting me know that, and by the way, he sent me his resume while we were in our beta because, I think he was interested in working with us, hopefully. And he wanted me to just review his resume for maybe future product management opportunities, whether within Guide or elsewhere. So a few weeks ago, he tells me, hey, don't think I'll be able to be a part of your beta because just other things have popped up and things like that. And for me, as our founder and CEO, was super interested in potentially maybe having him on the team, maybe long term, and being a PM, and kind of because he's seen us build the product from the ground up. But was pretty surprised that he kind of was like, I can't participate in your beta, and we weren't really asking too much of him. And I say that to say that the biggest thing that personally I look for as a startup CEO and founder, and people who are interested in product roles within my company or just interested in my company, is people who have hustle, tenacity, and grit. Hustle, tenacity, and grit. And I think that's really important in product management because product management isn't about getting your way. And I think product management is also about really being able to play the short game and the long game. And that requires some strategic muscle, but also some level of enthusiasm in whatever product you're building or the team you're building with. So I think a lot of people need to be able to show that at an interview or through passion projects or case studies that they're working on.
Yeah. Okay. So let me touch on this a little bit more, right? Because sometimes you think about these projects and it becomes this ambiguous language, and it's difficult for people to say, well, like, how do I break down a project, right? Like, what would be something that maybe Alex, you would say, wow, this is really, really interesting. What would you suggest?
In terms of like how to actually position that in a resume, or like what to actually do?
Yep. What to actually do. Right. And then obviously you're translating that to a resume, you're translating that to LinkedIn, but like what type of project would be really interesting for someone like you at Google that would set somebody apart?
Sure. So, we just look, and this is like broadly across top tech because the process is very much the same. Like they look generally for folks that have, if you're thinking about product management, obviously entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like Tim said, tenacity and grit. What was the third one, Tim?
Hustle.
Okay. Yeah, obviously. So basically just the act of starting anything up is already sort of like a self-selection bias, a positive bias, because you're just taking the step. And actually I see a lot of these communities being formed on LinkedIn, as kind of COVID took over. People were like, well, what do I do? And they're starting to band together in these groups. And those groups ended up having meetings that have like great production value and like awesome stuff came out of it. And that's awesome. That's organizational skill. That's taking initiative to build something. So, but that's just one. I mean, my personal favorite thing is just to think about what problems you struggle with or what problems you have from, in any business, personal, whatever, and think about how you could improve it. Just what problems could you solve for yourself, and see if you can do that for 2 people, 3 people. That's already a little project.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah, I agree. Even the smallest of projects, right? Because I think the myth that people on the outside think people on the inside have all these crazy, incredible tools to do these crazy user studies, and we just have things more dialed in. When the reality is, oftentimes I'll be sitting in a meeting and you're literally just drawing squares and buttons, and you're saying, Jane, stick figure. She goes and she clicks on this button, and stick figure Jane has this new experience. Button, button, button. Image, image, image. And then she clicks on one of the image. What happens there? Right? And she then goes back to the back. How does she even get back? Or is this all these minor or not minor, but these critical details that
user journeys,
right? That people want to understand, and it is literally as simple, but it is as hard as well as taking a piece of paper and being able to articulate some type of journey from start to finish. And then you saying, I believe this to be something that Jane or Bobby might want. I'm literally going to go talk to Jane and Bobby. And Jane and Bobby could be, your proxy could be mom and dad, right? I spoke to users.
Yeah, draw from your social network.
Right, draw from your network. Hey, I'm doing a quick study. And literally you show your 8.5 by 11 rudimentary drawing and you say, walk me through how you would use this experience. And you're getting feedback, and that's iterative, right? And then it becomes a more complex drawing, and then you're testing that complex drawing, and then it becomes more detailed, pixel perfect, and that's what you're giving to the engineering team, right? So what we're doing is not rocket science. At the end of the day, what we're doing is basic ground level user journeys, sketching things out, and seeing if it's going to stick.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't want to overcomplicate it. In fact,
no.
That can cause different types of problems.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Tim, are there any specific type of keywords? I'll ask both you and Alex this, and maybe we'll move on to the next question here after that. But are there any keywords that you would say that need to be on a resume from a PM standpoint to say, this person is thinking like a PM?
I'll let Alex go first. That's an interesting question. Thoughts, Alex?
Yes, hit me again, John. I'm marking questions.
Oh, yeah.
Go over some of these questions.
Yeah, no problem. So as far as keywords on a resume go, are there any, keywords like user story or alignment or things that
sprint and agile? John?
Yeah, right. But like, what makes you say, "Ooh, this person kind of thinks like me"?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you got to be careful with that. From my perspective, like we've been doing these Saturday morning resume reviews where folks come to me with their resumes and we just look at it and kind of break them down. And I've gotten a ton of resumes just in general in my life when I've been reviewing them, but now I've been going through these mostly like early career or still in college. And you can definitely take some wrong steps there. Like generally you don't want to put these trigger words, and again, in my perspective, where you're just putting them just so you can put AI ML on your resume. That's going to frustrate someone who actually works in the business and wants to hire someone. Like the more you put AI ML on your resume, the more I think you don't know what it is.
That's really interesting. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
So, but in terms of like now looking at the positive aspect of it. So like, for example, a common one that people put is like, I like to work on the roadmap and strategy and really, go through end-to-end development. If you say that to me, that's good. Generally, I want to hear that. Like, I want to know that you're involved in everything, but I'm going to be suspect unless you actually tie it up with some metrics and you tell me like, what is this thing? Why was it important? What did it deliver? And if it's tied to that, then yes, I will actually take notice when I see like end-to-end development, when I see functional collaboration with people, with different types of people, different types of groups, leadership. So I led this team, mentored, coached, just in general, like, those strong verbs. Yeah. I will actually take notice of that if you use the verbs that work well with the product manager's role.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so Tim, when it comes to these resume bullet points, right? You and I have talked about this a whole bunch, right? But what do we want to see? What do we want to see somebody do in those resume bullet points?
It needs to be concise, actionable, and I think that those are the two key points, right? Concise and actionable, right? And to Alex's point, having metrics to tie back to what the outcomes were that you drive in that role is super important. Yeah. And you don't want to overdo your bullet points. I think often 2 to 3 are enough. You often see a lot of resumes that have 5 to 7 bullet points for a role, which means that you didn't cut it. You didn't cut you didn't cut the key things that matter, because all those 7 bullets, I guarantee you, no one's going to read them. People barely read resumes. It's really, really true. And in fact, John and me have gone on the record in many of our webinars and online saying that the best way to get a job nowadays is through backdoor relationship building.
Yeah.
So take as much effort in your resume as possible, but know that 2 to 3 resumes, 2 to 3 bullet points are all you need. Yeah. And you're looking to make sure that you really focus on key outcomes, especially if it's a product role. And don't use buzzwords like Alex said. Use words that are, you can. I think it's cool if you add tools that maybe like Trello. I think that's actually really important because there's a lot of different tools that PMs have to use. Yeah. Don't put Excel. Don't put
Microsoft Word. You don't want to put Microsoft Word on there.
Google Sheets.
Are you sure? Google Sheets? Because like he works at Google, you might want to put Sheets.
Dude, don't ever do that. Put
I'm an intermediate Sheets user myself.
How are you? That's really good. I'm
fascinated. If you like really interesting tools, like for example, Google PyTorch. If you know technical tools, that's really interesting, I think. But don't put tools that every knowledge worker has to use in a business setting. I think those are really important. Aside from those, functional or communication or soft skills that you can put as well in your resume.
Yeah. And impact, right? That's the most important thing in the world on a resume. If you worked for a company for 3 to 5 years, right? Like, let's say you worked at, Microsoft for 3 years, and I see you as a project manager. The first thing I'm going to think is, this person's been working there for an entire 3-year period. They should be able to communicate to me that they did something pretty good, right? There's an expectation, right? So I'm seeing a title, I'm seeing a company, and then I'm putting my expectation hat and I'm going, where is that thing that they did that should be within their title, within their company, that would make me think, okay, this is pretty impressive, right? And so if you led a team, don't just say led a team, you led a team of 5 people, right? If you had year-over-year sales growth that was 20% above the entire field of other salespeople, don't just say 20% year-over-year growth. Literally 20% year-over-year growth to me or Alex or Tim would be, that might just be the normal baked-in baseline growth. Okay. And that's the thing that PMs care about. They go, well, wait, what do you mean 20% year over year growth? Like, is that better than everyone else? Is that better than the baseline? And like, how much better than the baseline? And was this expected? And like, there's like 50 million follow-up questions, and people get insane at these tech companies, right? They want to know like every little detail. That's how your resume needs to be said. Because if you can't quantify those bullet points on your resume, then you're not able to articulate those elements in your interview, and you will fail in your interview. So, damn. Give me the facts. So, Alex, you said there was a couple questions that you were.
There's a bunch of questions. I'd love to start taking these questions, but I still haven't figured out this software. So I've marked them as questions, John.
Okay.
Tim, what's next? How do I actually see them show up in a nice list?
So what you want to do?
Priority for me.
Well, yes, that is not a feature, but what you can do is you can broadcast the comment to the room, and then address the comment or address the question.
Okay, so I have to scroll and find the question, huh?
Yes, it's not the greatest user experience.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do it like this, right? Actually, so folks, if you're putting your questions down there, if you mark them as private, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that we should try to answer it in chat, or what does that mean? I'm going to start just opening these up. Okay. So
yeah, maybe just, if there's one that's private, somebody marked private,
skip them for now.
Skip that for now.
Okay.
If the person does not want it to be private, make sure that you say send to everybody when you type in your question, because you have a send to admin or send to private. So
yeah, folks. Yeah. So if you wrote private message, just rewrite it again, and we'll definitely get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me get to these questions. So Jor, I think if it's the one and only Jor, let me see. The question is, can you speak to doing PM in a company with a more established function versus one that has it, but disappeared, versus one that has it, but R&D engineering run the show. Okay, so that's interesting. We can probably speak to that. So the difference where I lost the question again.
Okay, so can you speak to doing product management in a company with a more established function versus one that has it?
Engineering runs the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So generally, most product management, top tech, engineering is going to be a heavy focus of it. Basically, you can't really get away from it. And so product management.
Engineering.
Engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Almost. I mean, I can't give a company where, between product managers and engineers, it's like clearly product managers. I mean, product managers might have a big role in deciding what gets done, but they have to work together with engineering to convince them and bring them along. So that's been my experience.
Mine too.
Yeah. So, and it's like, it comes from this very heavy engineering focus. I think from the people that actually start a lot of those companies, they have an engineering background. And so it's engineering focus there. So I think so like George, to answer your question, I think in either situation, you're gonna have to bring people along, and the PM, like the bigger the company, the more you're gonna have to spend time to actually align with the engineering manager and the tech lead, and of course, sales and like all the organizations, and do rounds. And this is going to be different for different companies, but I assume that's going to be the case with any kind of established big tech company.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page with you on that one. Tim, anything to add on that? I mean, going from Microsoft to now Guide.
Yeah, I think in a company like a Microsoft or a Google, the PM functions or career path is already established. In a startup, it's not as deeply established yet, but every startup is different. Even with our startup, we have a pretty deep competency in product management, being that we worked in product roles before. So there are some norms and rituals to.
You're creating those, right?
Yeah,
You're able to create them. Yeah.
In other startups, it's like anyone can be a PM, which that that has its perks, and then that doesn't really have its perks.
Yeah,
there's a skill to it.
Yeah.
But I would say is that in established companies where PM is already established, it's an oasis of learning opportunities, and you are expected to lead, in a sense of like you're expected to come in and really pick it up and go. I think in a really, really good way with all of
ownership
available to you, right? And take ownership. And I think you get a lot of peer coaching, which is really positive as well. But more fundamentally, you kind of get to see kind of what the ladder up path is to getting to that next level of senior PM, director PM, if you're interested in going that far, right? And I think that you can grow if you take a lot of initiative, right? And if you are super proactive and you want to stay in corporate. But I do also think that for a lot of PMs who are highly entrepreneurial, that also doesn't work for them, because you don't get to innovate. You don't get to do things that are new, or even try to maybe, how do I say this, make lateral moves within the organization.
Yeah.
In terms of depending on where you want to take your PM career path.
Yeah.
There's another good question here. What is a mistake made on the job, if you have made any mistakes, gentlemen, and how did you learn from it? That's the question.
Man. Oh God. I mean, you make mistakes all the time, right? I mean, sometimes you just miss something, right? You're building a roadmap, and you just underestimate something, right? You think something's going to take 3 months total from start to finish to complete, and there just winds up being a gap, right? There winds up being just a whole bunch of extra work that nobody ever had the ability to foresee. The problem is when you create goals in a big tech company, what happens is you have to literally etch them in concrete to leaders. And then you have to backpedal and you have to say, oops. And you have to start explaining why you're always red to your goal. And it's a crappy situation to be in, right? So there are situations like that all the time, right? Failure is normal in these roles. It's expected. However, failure at a startup means I'm not eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a difference. My paycheck is going to come no matter what. Alex's paycheck is going to come no matter what. But because Tim is raising funds for his company, he has to be insanely careful, right? Every wrong move becomes oh shit, I might not be able to survive another couple of months, right? Like it's a big deal in a startup world, right, Tim?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You gotta plan your runway.
Yeah, you got to plan your runway. So those things happen all the time. You just have more flexibility in a large tech organization to screw up because you're always going to get your paycheck, right? You could screw up royally and still get your paycheck.
I'll add to that a little bit. I totally agree with that, both from the startup side and from the top tech side. But I'll say that there are some things when you go to work for the bigger companies, as you move, if that's where you want to go. Like startups, it's all about being agile and just doing everything. And it's true. Yes, you can't really afford to make mistakes. At the same time, you have to keep taking risks, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough either way. But for the bigger companies, there's reputation is a very interesting thing. And if you don't develop it, you actually develop a negative reputation.
That's right. So
you have trajectory. It either goes up or it goes down. And that's something, for instance, I didn't know that. And so now whenever I try to mentor new folks that are coming in, I'm going to walk them through some of these things so that they kind of know the rules of the game. There's very specific rules to the game in tech and in big business and in product management. And the more of them the more you can avoid these mistakes. And so that reputation one is like one that I definitely tried on, and it was not fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's do this real quick. I'm just going to switch over to what is it like? So I'll just look for a quick answer from both of you guys. If you guys could both summarize, what does day in the life look like for Tim as a PM in a startup arena? We got kiddos. And what is it like for Alex, in his role?
Yeah. So the usual day for me looks like this, especially being a founder that is fundraising and building a product at the same time. So in the morning, I do a lot of backlog grooming of our roadmap and feature and bugs and things of that nature. And then from there, I go into probably, so this is probably around 8 a.m. And then from 9 to 10 a.m., I'm looking through emails, seeing who should I respond to. And then from 10 to let's say afternoon, I'm actually doing some design work, some concepting, or, just thinking about, okay, are there opportunities for us to, build in new features, and what would be the timeline for that? So kind of doing design and product work, because I'm our only designer right now. And then from the afternoon to towards the evening, let's say 3 p.m., I'm finding time to actually read a book, take a break, have a lunch break, which is really important. Maybe get some new ideas. And for the last 2 hours of the day, I'm checking in with the team, seeing if there's anything that they need from me, or what's going on, what bugs are we kind of bashing. We also have a really big creator community now. So sometimes I'm sharing updates with our creator community on new updates that we've launched in the product. And then around that same time as well, I'm in my emails following up with potential investors or our advisory board. So that's usually what a typical day looks like for me.
Man of many hats.
Yeah,
right. That becomes the typical startup. But that's really awesome that you carve out time to expand your mind, educate yourself. Right. That's something that a lot of people aren't doing, and I think that's incredibly valuable to grow. And not enough people take that time to do it. Alex, what about you, man? As far as day in the life.
Sure. Yes. Here we go. First thing, if I actually check my meetings the night before, which is a pro tip, and I don't just feed the kids and then, oh my God, I have a meeting in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Organization, extremely, extremely important. I've said this before. I'm going to continue to say it.
Yeah.
But assuming that I've planned my meetings and I at least don't have any extra meetings, and I've tried to defend my time as much as possible, because if you don't, it basically fills up just morning to evening. It fills up with meetings completely. Yeah. And then that happens for 5 days straight. And then at the end of the week, OKRs are due, or we've got to do a presentation.
What's an OKR for people who don't know?
OKR is objective and key results. It's usually how we track metrics in tech. Every quarter, we'll set up what we want to accomplish and key results. How do we know that we did it, basically?
Okay.
And those, every department is doing their own. Ken and John, you alluded to this, right? Like you write it down in blood.
You really do. Blood. It's blood. It's blood.
It's in digital blood.
Always pad your goal.
Well, so that actually is an interesting thing that happens, right, at these companies, because you have to pad it a little bit, because then the questions come, and the questions are, and I'm not talking about any particular company, John, of course. I'm talking
I get it. Yeah, right. Sure. Hypothetical only.
Just any top tech company.
Yeah, of course.
If you don't pad it, then what happens is you'll get questions from people that maybe are not in the weeds as much, and so you'll have to spend a lot of time to explain those things. So it's better to be a little bit more conservative on the conservative side, so that you can actually under-promise and over-deliver.
Yeah.
And you can align your team on the same. But effectively, so if you don't defend your time, then it's going to get eaten up. So a lot of my time still, because I have a team, I have many cross-functional groups to attend to. If I'm driving multiple things, and this will also depend on what level you are. And leveling, usually think about it like, are you working on a feature? Are you working on a set of features, or a product, or a set of products, or product line? And that's the responsibility changes, but the work is very similar. It's just like the domain changes, like the scope changes, right? So depending on my scope, the calendars will get filled up more and more. And that's why you'll see directors, you can't really schedule time with them. You have to go through their administrative partner, because otherwise their whole day.
The scope is huge.
But the problem with that is the PMs are the ones that think of the strategy. So you somehow have to set time where you sit for an hour or two and actually think through these things. And so if you can come up with strategy for an entire year and headcount requests and all this stuff, in between meetings in 45 minutes, then that's great. But I can't do that. Yeah. And then you just have to set time for strategy and thinking. Yeah. So it's between those things. And obviously you're always email, you're trying to minimize it, at least from my perspective. I'm trying to just answer the things that I can. I can't possibly answer everything. Prioritize as much as possible. A lot of that. And then it's still doing things in the nick of time. Yeah. That's kind of what you end up doing, because there's always these things that are coming down the pipe. You're just playing this time management game. So strategic and meetings, that takes up basically the bulk of my time, if you're thinking about it from product management aspect.
Yeah, and on my side, there's a lot of document writing. That's a coveted skill. Writing is a coveted skill at these very large tech companies, and it's interesting. A lot of people say, well, they're not really good writers, which is why we all three of us advocate for people to be creating a lot of content, because creating content makes you a better writer. It allows you to create things that are more concise. If you are creating a post and you get one like on it, well, it might be because it's not necessarily well written, but there's other factors as well, right? There's the size of your network, the time that you've been creating content, there's other things. But creating content makes you become a much better writer, become much more clear in your thinking. And when you're really clear in your thinking, you become really clear in your speaking as well. So all of those things are really important. But there's a ton of writing at Amazon. I've told Tim about this many times. We've had a lot of jokes back and forth about the obsessive nature of Amazon's writing culture. And essentially, I'll have a bunch of people who think completely differently about a new feature. And I have to say, this is the stake in the ground. And I have to write a strategic document that says, here's the goal. Here's the background. Here are the user stories and themes that I want to go after, and meet with everyone and go through that very struggle or that big struggle of a process to get everyone to think on the same page so that we can estimate a feature. And all of my features that I'm creating are all user experience workflows. So I am constantly in a program called Sketch, and I'm designing up workflows, screen. Where does the person go? How do they get out of this experience? What type of email do they get when they click the submit button? What does it look like? What does the Excel sheet look like when what are the instructions? What are the help docs like? It's the entire ecosystem of a project that I'm looking at from where they start to where they complete a journey. And then I'm creating the goals for that entire workflow as well. How many users are going to use this thing? How much revenue is it going to generate? What is my estimated impact that I'm going to get from this? And does all my leadership team agree? Do they all align with that goal? Because I'm going to have to write it in blood, like Alex is talking about, right? So, but yeah, so that's the kind of the nature of a PM for each of us. And let's see. So I'm going to do some rapid fire questions.
So actually, before you do that, John, I'm
please.
going to drop a Slido link because I can't handle this anymore. So if you folks could just kindly please go to this link and actually drop your questions in there so we can actually prioritize this. It was painful for us to answer questions randomly.
Yeah. This is a terrible. Webinar Jam has a crappy interface when it comes to questions. But this, okay. So speaking of that, a lot of you in the chat have said, "I don't get the personal project thing. I don't understand." Right? You right now are in a program that you all see a gap in. Right? You all see the gap. This is a collaborative session where we're answering your questions, and yet we have no way of prioritizing your questions or the value of your questions.
How do you optimize this product experience?
How do you optimize Webinar Jam? And your entire personal project is like, I had a session on Webinar Jam and it sucked because of this reason, right? Not because of the speakers, obviously. Come on now. But it sucked because of the chat on the side. How do I make it better?
All right, we're starting to see some questions pop up as well. We'll give it a few more minutes if you could. And we've lost Tim.
And we've lost Tim.
Oh, that is
disappearing. Tim's coming back. Tim is back, and he's just like
from a different angle.
Side. What up, Tim? Looking good, man.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Look at that beard, man.
Can y'all hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, my stuff is spammed out because it was using too much electricity. Hold on.
Really?
We try. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, we got a different angle though. It sounds like there's
we do.
Yeah, it's my FaceTime.
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna actually add an offer, and the offer is you guys go and use that link to type your questions.
And so, should we do this? Should we wait for questions to pour in, and then we go to the next topic that was from our list?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay. So, how does one pivot into product management? I'm going to start with Tim and follow on with Alex on this one. Tim, how do you pivot into product management?
Man, so let me tell you how I pivoted into product management.
Yeah. Tell them your story about this.
Awkward lens.
I love it, dude. I'm going
to. So I pivoted into product management actually through LinkedIn. Literally, LinkedIn was my pivot.
Yeah,
so
LinkedIn's your pivot.
The way I got my first AI product management role with Microsoft, and I've shared this with John. He's probably tired of hearing the story.
No, I love the story, bro. Give it to him.
I was in grad school and I was creating content every single week around AI and product management about where the future of AI is going.
On LinkedIn, right? Okay.
Consistently, every single week, like obnoxiously. And then one of the CVPs at Microsoft saw that and he reached out to me and said, Tim, you might be a great fit for one of our UX design positions on one of the teams that I'm building around conversational AI. So I fly out to Microsoft one lovely winter day, and I interview with about 3 to 4 people on site. Didn't think I did well during the interviews because I was nervous. It was my first time interviewing with Microsoft. I leave not feeling 100% confident that I get the role. I get back to Austin, Texas, where I was living at the time. And, for about two months, I waited for a call back. And one day I get a call back from who would be my eventual general manager on the team. He tells me, "Hey Tim, thanks for coming on site and whatever and interviewing with us. You didn't get the role as a UX designer." I was bummed, but you actually got the role as a product manager on our.
That's great.
And the thing is that I wasn't even actually going for that role. Like I told you guys earlier, I was actually going for a UX design role. But in a lot of the answers I was giving them when I was doing my interviews, they felt as if my skills and my competencies would led me to be a better PM on the team. So I was telling them about all the projects I was working on around conversational AI in terms of building bots, what I love about,
You were on it, man.
Yeah, I was telling them
on it.
And
Yeah.
Tim, they called it, man, because
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur. You're building stuff, right? That's what you do. You are a product manager. They called it.
They called it. So, I didn't even go for that. I wasn't even going for that role, but that's how I got my first product role, unknowingly, right? So that could happen to any one of us here that's currently listening, but it happened to me because I was speaking and acting like a PM, right? And it kind of goes to our point that we've been sharing is that you kind of have to play the role in order to get the role, even if you're not interviewing for the role. So that's how I got my first role in PM.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Now, Alex, you were on the entrepreneurial side for many years prior to jumping into Google, right? So were you on the PM side of things, or where were you at?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a business founder, anytime you build anything, you sort of the product manager, right? Like the CEO is the main product manager. In fact, the CEO is on the product management ladder at a lot of these companies.
Yeah.
So definitely did that for a while. Offline businesses. I even had a construction business for a while.
Okay.
And, plenty of interactions with thousands of customers, and so much collaboration that's required. Also, when you're dealing with physical aspects, like the physical world, much better in software. But when I went into mobile gaming and mobile app development, that's where this traditional role of like entrepreneur plus software development is this really product manager. Oh, we've lost Tim again.
We've lost Tim.
Maybe we'll get a different angle this time, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh,
look at that angle.
So, and that's when I actually, the role that I had was a producer. I did a panel for students, product manager for a product management club at Canadian University. And the question was like, what was your involvement in product management before? And I said the same thing where it's this sort of marriage of business plus business knowledge and being able to start things up yourself. Plus it just happens to be in software development. So software like iterative development. And actually I was a producer for a while. And so I realized that producer and product manager is actually a huge overlap. And because again, it's the person who's responsible for end-to-end development. And that's when I realized I was a product management. And after that, when I applied to Google, it was obviously for a product manager position, and they agreed with me.
That's good. They agreed with you.
Yeah, they agreed.
They hired you. They agreed with you.
They hired. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the pivot is always interesting, right? Because the PM role is just like a lot of other roles, but the language is a little bit different, right? So if you're in construction, like Alex is talking about, when you're in construction, you're dealing with customers. What does the customer want? And how can I deliver that for the customer? It just so happens to be in construction. The same thing applies for a web app, a search engine, Google Sheets, Google Docs, right? What does the customer want? How do I solve their problem? A house builder or a person who needs a house, they want a house built. I can deliver that for them. What are the details, right? Now Alex leaves. Yeah, Alex don't want to hear me talk.
I was just like, I gotta switch sides.
I know he's got to switch. Oh, he's over there now. I love it.
All right. Well, I found another bug with Webinar Jam.
I know. There's a lot.
All right. I think we're gonna switch. Yes, we're gonna switch. We might switch from this platform. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, so sales, marketing.
Yes.
All of these roles are so similar to product management. It's essentially the same. It's just how you communicate it, right? And it's just how can you showcase that you take ownership with something from start to finish? and you care deeply about the customer. Because if you get hit with a question at Google or Microsoft or Amazon, if all else fails and you screw up on everything, the only thing that really matters is, do you care deeply about the customer? And can you deliver something from start to finish from the experience that you've had in the past? Even if it's construction. How many projects did you deliver? How many times did you work with customers? How delighted were those customers in that situation? Articulate that, right? That's how you're able to kind of bridge the gap.
So true.
So, and then Alex, you're monitoring the questions in the.
Yeah, so I think we're ready to go for Slido. We've got
that's great.
40
That's
questions,
great.
and
Wow, 40 questions.
A few came to the top. So, folks, if you do browse those questions with those 0 thumbs up and 1 thumbs up, they drop to the bottom so quickly, but that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that you haven't seen them. So do glance at them to see if you're interested in them. But we can definitely start from the top questions if you like.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So the top question is, drum roll, Catherine asks, are there any ways to get into PM without a tech background or tech involvement, or is it inherently a tech field? I love this question. John, you want to try first?
Tech background, I do. Well, okay. So
are there ways to get into product management without it?
Yes. So I have found at Amazon, at least, that the large majority of product managers do not need a tech background. They do not. There is a tech PM role, and that is not to be confused with technical project manager. That is literally just a acronym, tech PM, which means tech product manager. They are people who are dealing with APIs. They are people dealing with maybe internal tools that other teams are consuming, right? That it's some type of architecture that another team is consuming. So there are those types of individuals. But my role on a day-to-day basis is literally, what does the customer want? Can it generate revenue? And how do I articulate that in human speak to the engineering team? Right? Because the engineers are going to go, what about this edge case? What about this? What about this? And then they just dive into the weeds like this. Okay. They're flying off a cliff at 150 miles an hour, and you just watch them like just dive into a brush fire. Okay. That's what engineers do. Okay. They love that. I don't want to go there. Okay. I don't want to die in a brush fire. What I want to do is I want to pump the brakes. Okay. And I want to go, we're talking about humans here, and humans have this problem, and let's go up at that level. Let's abstract at that level. So that's my day-to-day basis. I did go to a software development boot camp. It was a 6-month boot camp. I thought that would help me get a role in PM. It did help me, because what I used the narrative of that. I said, I understand the pain that engineers go through when it comes to coding something, the time and the pain. So I can really relate to them, and I could build a bond with them quicker because of that experience. But as I've gone through my PM career a little bit more, I've recognized that having that background really doesn't matter at all. I don't use that narrative in my day-to-day. So that's me.
Tim, what do you think?
I don't know. I think for me, it's how would you reframe the question?
So it's, do you need a technical background to get into product management? John's position is you basically you don't, like that. To summarize,
have you needed, like you didn't need a technical background, Tim, to go into Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I don't think you need a technical background, but you have to be able to speak tech.
Yes.
Okay, but now what is that? What is it? So articulate that to the audience, right? Because they're going to be like, "Whoa, speak tech. I don't get it. What does that mean?"
You kind of have to be able to talk APIs and infrastructure capacity and cloud resourcing, and you have to be able to read up on and build your lexicon around that area. But as a PM, you're not going to be doing that function, that really like niche work. But you have to be able to understand. I think it's really important to be able to sit at a meeting and understand what people are talking about when they mean that we need to focus more on cloud performance and latency, and if we don't, this feature won't work the way the UX design team wanted to design it or how they wanted to deliver it. And I think a lot of that stuff does affect the user experience as well. So I think you don't have to be technical, but you have to understand how to speak technical language or jargon with your engineers and other PMs. Because there are technical PMs that sometimes we have to work with, right?
Yeah, but I think you like for you learned a lot of that technical jargon on the job.
On my own time, yep.
On your own time.
Yep, I learned a lot of that technical jargon through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Learning, and YouTube, and reading books.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a lot of people. I want to be really, really candid here. A lot of people overcomplicate PM.
Yeah, they overcomplicate it.
Overcomplicate PM.
It's not that hard.
It's really not that hard. I'm going to be very candid about this. It's not that hard. And I'm excited that you guys are all listening to us because we're passionate about being PM. But PMing is like you have to take ownership. It's a huge ownership role. Like I personally wouldn't be starting a company if I just didn't love building products that kind of bring people together and are around my passion area and learning. But like PM is one of these roles where like if you really love building things and like love getting people involved, it'll come simple to you because you're just seeing things manifest and you don't want to take all the responsibility. You just want it to happen and you're happy to give everyone else the floor. But if you're like super ego driven and like everything has to be about you, you're not going to be successful at PM because nothing's really about you. It's really more about everyone else is doing the work and you're facilitating the work. So you have to kind of be just like, okay, what needs to get done? How do we do it? And how do we do it in an order that's conducive to the business and the customer, right? So I feel as if a lot of people put too much more pressure on being a PM than necessary sometimes because they often think it's about flash and, always trying to be the best PM possible. It's like, you don't want to be Captain Save PM. You need to be a PM that gets it done. What do y'all think?
So John, I think we lost your mic.
Oh, sorry. Answer that one, Alex. Well, what's that for you?
Yeah, I like everything that Tim just said. Now I'm going to come at it from a different angle also.
Okay, do it.
Because if you want to be a PM at the top tech companies, at the top levels, this stuff is so complex. It's so complex, not in the way that you have to be a rocket scientist, but in the way that it's like solving a puzzle with a million dimensions, honestly. Yeah. Like if you, and I don't know, John, like you give me your opinion, but like as I see what's happening in these companies, the complexity of dealing with 1 billion users is and all of these systems that interact with one another.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
So you can it can easily take up all your time, take up all your brain power, and just really test you. So on the one hand, it's not hard because everything that Tim said is totally accurate. Yeah. On the other side, the reason why we need PMs and why these companies need PMs is because of the complexity that's growing. It's like this thing that makes billions and billions of dollars and services billions of users. It becomes more and more complex as it expands and evolves. And there's like thousands of connections. And you need people that are going to sit down and, like John said, like what's actually going on.
Yeah, like what the hell? What the hell is even going on?
Yeah.
That's half the time. Most of my job is like, what the hell is going on?
Yes. So it's like it's simultaneously, Tim is totally right. And also what I said is also true. It's like it's actually both of those things.
That complexity is crazy because you're working with platforms that are connected to platforms. And I can only imagine working on Google search at Google or Google Ads. It's like that's a freaking infinite
it's like an infinite cave. Going and going. It's like this black hole of nothingness.
That's wild. That's so wild.
But it's really true actually. Okay, so this is what I like to say. I like to say that our jobs are not rocket science. And I like to say that if I were to take anybody on this chat, I could take and I could train you in my job in 6 months and you'd be rockstar PM. 6 months. You could do my job, no problem. I could walk away. If you want to pay me on the side, that's fine, right? But I could walk away and you could be a rock star at my job because like anything, any job breaks down to, I look at it like a language. Rosetta Stone, for example. The reason why Rosetta Stone is able to teach people languages in such a short period of time is they break down the language into the 10% of language that everybody uses and the 90% that is total noise, right? As a PM, we need to break down the noise and focus on where is the 10%, right? And so when it comes down to it, there's a lot of complexities in this like total mind blowing, like there's all these architectural downstream systems. You're looking at architectural diagrams going like, honestly, like what the hell is even going on here? But there's a system to it, right? And you could learn it, right? And the main thing is the ownership side of things. That's it. It's the ownership. Because if you have the ownership to dive in and go, I have no friggin' idea what is going on, but in a week, I'm going to know exactly what's going on. That's what a Google or an Amazon or a Microsoft or a startup wants from you.
Love it. Love it.
All right, guys, let's go to another question.
All right. And so here, let's do this. We're going to put a time box to this. We're going to go to 8:30. Well, it's 8:30. So 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard. We'll close it out. Okay. So maybe Alex, you and I and Tim, we'll just rapid fire. We won't all answer each question. Maybe you just hit the questions and say, you might be the best one or whatever.
Let's do that. Okay. Nagar asks, are PM certificates useful on a resume? I'm a PhD candidate in information science, don't have a business background. John. Tim, you want to jump in?
You go.
That's good.
Volunteer. Get LinkedIn Learning certificates on PM. Get individual courses. They're useful. It proves that you're always learning, which is important to being a PM.
All right, excellent. Nice. Maher asks, efficacy of this versus that. Okay, so we have to choose. Scrum certificates. Okay, where am I? Scrum certificates, PRD, management certificates from universities like Cornell, Coursera, Tech Focus PM, or full-blown 2-year MBA. Who wants to take it? John?
I'll take it. So it depends on your strategy, your risk for debt, your ability to pay back a loan, a lot of different factors, the situation you're going on in your life. However, I would say that an MBA at these tech companies is still coveted because I don't know if people are quite at the mindset of looking at free education and free programs from a resume standpoint, right? Like if you're going through the front door, the front door is going to require a lot of these things. Now, however, if you're going to go through the back door, then the interesting conversations you're going to have in the back door and the networking with the hiring manager are going to be a lot more rich if you have those other courses and things. So anyway, MBA, if the ROI is there, do it.
Yeah, and I would also just add to that, like depending on where you are in your career. Because there's a certain aspect where that MBA can actually, get you help to get through that front door.
Yeah, it can help lead you in. Yep.
Okay, next question. Hema asks, how to work with stakeholders and leadership who keep changing priorities at the last minute.
just leave the company. I'm just kidding.
Let me actually take this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you got to get used to it. I think that would be like the biggest takeaway. The reason why a lot of times we are unhappy with our life is because we have different expectations from reality. And so that's what leadership kind of does, because they're looking at it at a slightly different angle. Sometimes it's easy for us to say, oh, man, they're constantly changing at the last minute, but they're dealing with inputs and outputs that you don't necessarily see. Now, a lot of the times leadership, it can be bad, but it's also weird if we all think leadership is bad. All of us think leadership is bad. Like something's wrong. So somebody's
problem.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So
somebody's got to be good here.
It's like I think leadership is bad, and then I become the leadership, and I'm like, I'm doing a pretty good job. Like there's a disconnect there.
And then I don't like you, and then I think leadership is bad.
Yeah. So
what an asshole.
Just take basically like accept that as a fact of life and over communicate, right? If you say like, this is what we're doing, this is what we said we'd do, this is what we did, then when these changing priorities happen, at least you kind of have it documented, and you're always ready for that to happen.
It's a great answer. Yep.
Okay. Next question. If you guys, feel free to, if you want to jump in.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I would try to get to as many as we can,
Sounds good. So Tanya asks, what are the metrics that are most commonly used to measure product success? Tim, you're operating a product right now, startup. That's very important.
It's different. And, for us, we're a video-based, bite-sized training platform. So the metrics that I often
we lose Tim?
I think Tim froze. He froze with his mouth slightly open.
Okay, what the question was, let's see if Tim's back from his iPhone. Yes.
Yes, he's back. All right, Tim, throw that answer down.
Yeah, so the metrics that, we're a video-based bite-sized training platform. So the metrics that I'm often kind of quantifying or looking for to ensure that we're meeting our goals is how many people, how many videos are being uploaded, per month or in total in some. How often are people creating notes on our platform, because you can take notes as you watch a video. But also how many people are watching videos per session, and how many in terms of engagement metrics, right? So those are the metrics, but every product is different. I think at a high level, business metrics that everyone uses is monthly active users or daily active users. If your product is supposed to get that type of usage. I think if you're building an analytics product, it's a little bit different. You're trying to measure workflows and the speed of how often these workflows are. Do people coherently understand how to search for certain types of data or create queries, things of that nature? So it varies a bit, but it all depends on the product.
Yeah, Alex, are you using Aarm Metrics, acquisition, activation, retention, monetization?
Yeah, I mean, at a top level, of course, like that's how I think about a product funnel anyway. Yeah. But of course, like Tim said, we get very specific. Right, very,
very specific. For the people in the audience, right, you want to look up AARM metrics, AARM metrics. Those are the types of questions you'll be hit with in a PM interview. And people will say, well, how do you measure how many users you're going to get? Activation, right? Or acquisition. How many users are you getting through the funnel? And then once they're in the funnel, how long are they sitting there? Are they even using the product? We don't want them to just sit there and do nothing. We want them to actually use it. How many days does it take them to actually start up and actually use something? Those are really interesting metrics, right? We want them to be active, and then how active is a really active user? So you go like down these like. You can cascade down to the most granular type of metric, and that's how we often view these products.
I would also say that, the question was like, what are the metrics that are commonly used to measure product success? So John, you nailed it, right? Those are the
commonly. Those are the ones, right?
Exactly. But if you're thinking about for your own product, you got to ask yourself those hard questions of what are you trying to actually accomplish?
Yeah, that's right.
How will you know that you're successful?
How will you know? Yeah, that's right.
What is the thing that's going to tell you? And so
there's an Uber metric. There's always an Uber metric. And that's the metric that the leadership team wants to get during a meeting. Mm-hmm. Where is the needle going? Right. Yeah. And it might just be how many users are we getting daily? That might just be a thing that they care about. Right. And so that's the thing that you report to leadership. But everything else is like, well, what about this and this and this? Leadership wants to know if they pinpoint you on anything, you have to kind of drill down and say, let me get back to you on that. I can, parse through and give you an answer.
Okay. We have time for a few more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Continue with the rapid fire questions here, folks. It's actually, people are voting live and like they're moving in front of me.
Oh, okay. Do the best you can.
No, good job voting. This is good. This is what we want. So let me put this one to the top. Charles asks, how to transit from an internal tool PM to consumer enterprise client-facing PM?
Mm-hmm. So I haven't had experience going internal tool to client.
I got an answer for this one, John.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, it's this. A PM's a PM. Like, who cares?
That's right.
Internal tool.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's going to be domain specific stuff. Like you can't just become a hardware PM and start building, autonomous vehicles, right? If you don't have any experience in it. And they won't, it's so like there's certain domain expertise like cloud, there's obviously hardware, different aspects of hardware. When you're talking about internal tools, which is basically all software, to consumer facing, that's
you still have a customer.
identical.
You still have a customer.
Exactly. So like now your customer, it's an internal customer, but as a customer, they have needs. It's the same exact situation. When you go enterprise, a little bit different. And that's why I think just knowledge of business is helpful, because of course enterprises are their own beasts. Like they have many heads, and like so it's got its own specifics.
Medusa? You guys Medusa?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like a hydra.
It's like a corporate hydra.
That's what it is. Like, when you're trying to sell these $1 million contracts, you just have to talk to an army of people, and they all have their own internal stuff. So it's definitely an art. But if you're going to consumer from internal tool, then you just do it. You don't ask permission for these things in general. Like if you have experience being a PM, just apply it, and it all works the same.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Okay, next question. Oh, okay, this is a good one for you folks. Can you talk about LinkedIn profile? Do you look at a LinkedIn profile or resume first? Should a LinkedIn profile be different from resume? If yes, how? I like this question.
You gotta fire this one off to Tim, man. You gotta fire this.
That's what I'm saying.
Tim's a pro, bro. Tim's a pro.
I thought John was gonna take.
No. You go, man.
Hell yeah, it should. Your LinkedIn is your personal canvas. You definitely want to make sure that it's totally different from your resume. And the reality is that PMs and any person that's hiring, that's the hiring manager, they look at your PM to validate if they want to even offer you an opportunity to interview to potentially get the job. It's so true. Like so many people do not use the resume as the last litmus to determine if someone should get hired. And it's been proved. And even me as a CEO, like we're using this thing called Humanly, where people can apply on our website through a chatbot. But then I go look at their LinkedIn and see who they are, because I can't see their face. And
Right.
But I completely try to go see what does their LinkedIn look like? What are they sharing? Because I want to get a sense of like, who are they online?
Yeah.
And like, I'm just flat out. And that just to kind of get a sense of what's their career history and kind of career thread. So I think you gotta show up on LinkedIn. I don't know why people are still like not showing up on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
There's a new platform now called Lunch Club, which is kind of like LinkedIn, but it's like a new school version. But you just gotta show up on social.
You just gotta show up. Yeah, I agree, man.
Especially in the remote first world.
Oh man, yeah, 100%. You move from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. Resume is 2-dimensional. Your LinkedIn profile is 3-dimensional, right? Yeah. So if you put videos on there, people know how you speak. People know what you're thinking about, what you care about, what your passions are, right? Your resume is never going to be able to do that.
Yep. Hey, thank you to everyone that's following us on LinkedIn. And if you're learning anything from this webinar, please share what you're learning on LinkedIn.
Yes. Actually, so since it's Saturday, the engagement on LinkedIn is shit. So what you want to do, okay, this is a pro tip from a personal branding standpoint. If you learned anything during this webinar tonight, post that one thing that you learned, or some people like to do summary posts, that's great too. Post the one thing or summary Monday morning, first thing in the morning when you wake up. And that will give you and tag us, and that will give you the most engagement for your LinkedIn posts, right? Because posts on LinkedIn are about a week bake-in period, because it's an information superhighway, right? So Monday is the start of the information superhighway for the week. And if you pump something into the funnel in the start of the week, it's going to bake in there as long as possible and give you the most amount of views, right? So if you're trying to build a personal brand, tag us. Our networks help your network, and we will show you some love.
Yep.
So. Yep.
Make it a Monday morning post.
Make it a Monday morning post. We'll show you some love.
I'm sure you'll get about 1,000 likes.
You will, actually.
These guys are pros. I don't really have anything to add. The only thing I would say is that I definitely use it as a go-to for looking up a candidate as well.
Yeah.
To mirror Tim. So it's funny how people won't think twice about like posting their wacky adventures on Instagram. But like LinkedIn, I don't know if I want to invest in that. Like that's so.
Al, somebody asked, anonymous, John, have you ever thought of switching to Google? Why not? No comment in this particular session.
No comment.
What's up?
Are they trying to give you a job?
No, I know. They're just trying to like, why not work for Google?
I don't know why not. I
don't
think
know.
there's all kinds of reasons to work for Google. I think Google's awesome.
Like I am on a
food.
What's up?
Are y'all getting food now?
No,
Food?
no. What food? I'm stuck in my dining room.
Are you getting food? Did you order food?
No, like I was wondering if Google offers people food.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Well, that's a perk that you're not getting anymore, right? You're stuck at home. You got no more free lobster tail for you. No more first world. That's a real first world problem you got. There's no butter sauce in the corner with the. You can't do
laugh,
dippy
but I got used to it. I
know.
Where's my mocha?
Where's my dippy sauce with my mocha?
All right, you guys, come on. It's been tough.
This guy, it's been so hard. Okay. Like, let me tell you, they don't give me food anymore. Like life is like, I don't get my free custard cups at the end, unlimited custard cups. Like life is really shitty.
On site, man.
What's that?
When y'all going back on site?
I don't know if I'm ever going back on site. Honestly, I like it here. I get to hang out with the kids and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's funny, we drove up there to campus just to walk around because I've been in between fires, and Tim, you have as well. Like, it's been impossible to breathe here in the Bay Area for like a month.
Yeah.
Finally, we drove up basically to campus to go into like a little lake. That was the first time I've been on campus in 6 months. So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But obviously, we joke, but obviously things have been incomparable. With our experience post COVID, with I think the majority of folks that are just going through COVID, it's kind of like it's definitely an oasis in tech, and it makes sense. Obviously,
there's an oasis in tech.
Online.
Yeah.
Okay, a few more questions, maybe. So we did that.
5 more minutes, y'all.
5 more minutes.
Okay, all right. Do certifications such as Coursera add value to the resume? I think we kind of answered this one, but I've been working as a business analyst, but interested in transitioning into PM. So, Tim, any different answer there?
Okay, I've been working as a web analyst, but I want to transition into PM.
Yes, as a business analyst. As a business analyst. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Take some of those skills, some of those learnings, some of those big projects that you've worked on as a business analyst, and flip it on its head like it's a product management project. You've had some projects on your belt as a BA that can validate how you think from a product standpoint. Flip it. The language, and I think try to work from where you're at. Don't try to stretch to where you're not. Work from where you're at. Don't try to stretch to where you're not, because what you have is good. I think business analysts, you get to touch on product related stuff, but pivot it into more so like how you have product thinking, how you can analyze markets, and how you get things done. So that's my quick tidbit on it.
I love that. Okay,
good. Next. Tim, can you explain how you raise funding and get interest from investors?
Oh my God, I can talk to that.
Yeah, do it.
That's for you, man.
Let me first tell you all something about fundraising and building a company. Building a software as a service company takes time, okay? Building an app company takes time. I think I want to fundamentally tell you all that, like, fundraising is about, you want to find the right partners, but you also need to understand how fundraising is. It's a short game and it's a long game. So when it comes to fundraising, you really have to understand you have to be able to value your own business, but also understand that you don't want to sell too much equity when you're raising a seed round, for example. That's where we're at right now. So sell about 20-25%, but also always like hit it around, like every business is different, but you always want to build a business in a growing market. So we're in the L&D space, it's growing, right? The biggest thing about fundraising is that it takes consistency, and try to like see if you can find a few angels who are like operating angels and can connect you with different investors. And then don't try to pitch at firms unless you have a product that's in market, that's already kind of getting some usage. It doesn't have to have 100 users, but enough usage for you to say, this is where the product is going, and this is why we think you'd be a great partner fit for our company. But don't ever fall prey, if you ever want to become an entrepreneur, to people who fundraise and they sell off 30% of their company at the seed stage. You have to be very frugal on how much equity you sell off, and really be able to price your own business given what the fair market value is.
So, John, I just thought this is like an awesome opportunity for me to share a link to sign up for our product accelerator that we've got coming up. So we've got a few people sign up. The idea there is we're going to actually go and hear your pitch ideas, your businesses, your concepts, whatever you're working on, and we'll give you some feedback about like what may be a good some good advice in certain areas in terms of hiring, product, fundraising, whatever it is, and we'll make a show about it. Yeah, design any element of it. So we're picking folks. We do have a few submissions that we've already chosen, and we're probably going to do the first show. I'm thinking sometime in October. We haven't set a date yet. So make sure you follow us to get the update on when that show is going to be. And make sure you use that link that I just dropped in chat to submit your idea, concept, business, or product. So I just thought I'd pitch that real quick.
No, that's really good, man. Yeah, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn because you'll get those updates when they come.
Okay. John, did you want to add anything to that?
1 more minute.
Oh, right. Okay.
No, that Tim got that, man.
Okay. Let me see. Backdoor networking when you're coming from non-tech industry. That's you guys. Come on.
Yeah. Everything's backdoor, guys. Everything's backdoor. Okay.
How do you do it? How do you start?
Yeah. How you do it? You look through your network. You look through your school's network. You look through your best friend's network. You literally become a hustler. You become a hustler.
A network hustler.
You create an Excel sheet and you find 10 people and you go, these are my best buds. My best buds have best friends that work at these companies that I'm interested in. Awesome. Great place to start. Maybe my second cousin, Joey, all right, works for Google. Awesome. I'm going to contact Joey because Joey's going to send an email to the hiring manager directly and he's going to skip the recruiters, okay? Because we don't want to deal with that. Like they hate me for saying this, okay, because I don't like talking about going through the front door, but that is their job. They are the front door. They're the gatekeepers, right? So they're defending their position and I totally understand it. But ideally what you want to do is you want to email back channel Bobby. Bobby's got the hiring manager. You say, Bobby, I'm going to send you an email with my top 3 incredible strengths that are related to this specific job, and can you please attach the resume? And boom, you have emailed the hiring manager from a contact internally with an email that is stellar that says this person is the fit, the number 1 fit. And then the 300 people in the recruiter funnel that they're sifting through every day largely become irrelevant. Because now you have planted a seed in the hiring manager's mind, and the person first in the gate is the person that wins. Okay, that's it. That's my passion pitch for this.
Sounds good. Usually I throw in a little bit on like, don't forget the front door, but like I know John is very much.
Yeah, I'm very much the backdoor advocate. However, no, I understand. Front door, it is important. You can still leverage those angles. But
I would just say, sorry to interrupt, John, but like your point is that you have, only this many hours in the day, and you're saying like, just put that energy
efficiency
in networking. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to actually argue with that. Like it's hard for me to say, but also, apply because it's just less efficient. It's true. But if you do have unlimited time, so to speak, then you can go those. But like, yeah, I totally agree with John. Obviously, if you're prioritizing, there's no question you got to go network. You got to figure out, exactly what John just said about building that network.
Yeah. And if you have literally nobody who works at that company, of course, right? Use the front door, apply, but then your resume has to be utterly stellar, right? Right. Let's say you're just getting started in the whole game and you're navigating, you don't really have any connections. Of course, you got to go through the front door, right? But like, I like to talk about the back door because Tim and I and Alex have all built a network that is pretty big, right? And we pride ourselves on knowing a lot of people in the industry, and we're able to just back channel things, right? And it becomes a lot easier process.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. We're out of time. So
that's it.
Questions, thank you for those questions. We'll see if we can get to them in like a future video or post or something like that. We try not to lose them. Thank you very much, John.
Guys, thank you so much. Parting words from Alex, parting words from Tim.
Hey, look, my parting words are this. Hey, if you're looking to get into a product management role, go get it. It's very much doable. It continues to be a growing discipline. and find your niche and start speaking the language. And we're here to help you if you need any support in that journey.
That's right. Alex?
Yep, couldn't have said it better. And so I won't even try. I think do what Tim said, and we'll try to help you out best we can.
Yeah. Just go out there, take ownership, and create those personal projects, and think non-traditionally when it comes to this stuff. Right. Really start thinking non-traditionally, because that's what's going to set you apart when it comes down to the interview process. So
and don't forget to tag us in your post on Monday.
Monday morning, we are expecting a post. Okay.
Thank you so much for your support. We do appreciate it. We know we like that you spending your Saturday with us, or Sunday morning for some of you. So we appreciate it, and we had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you later.
Hold on.
Whoa. What you got?
Should we you guys take a picture of us so you guys can?
Oh yeah, do the picture too. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're doing a smile. I'll do a smile with my beer.
Okay. I'm taking a screenshot on your end. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's it. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
All right, guys. Later. We'll see you.